Hello there. Welcome to the Saroy channel, wherever you are in the world, and so much love to each and every one of you. And if you're a new subscriber, you're so welcome to our channel. We love stories, and I hope you're going to enjoy the story we have tonight. So don't forget to go and get that perfect drink, whatever it is, and if it's something unusual, let me know about it. So before we get started, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, click the notification bell and the thumbs up, and let's get started with tonight's story. Dear Sarah, and all your lovely listeners, I was 13 years old. My sister was 12. We were standing outside TJ Maxx clothing store in Older Street in Portland, eyeing the tall willowy mannequin, wearing the blonde wig, sporting a tight-fitting glittering silver dress that sparkled like a twinkling diamond, the pièce de résistance in the evening section of women's clothing. I was dreaming about owning this zooty dress more than anything else in the entire world. It would seem that for some incongruous, unfathomable reason, it had a curious hold on me that occupied my attention and focus during every waking moment. Of course, I knew in my gut that this was something that my mother would never buy for me in a million years. Hell would freeze over long before she bought me a tight-fitting silver dress like this. I knew it was never going to happen. Nevertheless, I pointed out the silver dress to her in the shop, hope clinging tightly to my heart like a muscle to a rock that doggedly refuses to loosen its hold, as I prayed silently to myself, "Oh God, please, please may she buy this for me." I tried frantically to negotiate with our Heavenly Father, desperately persuading him about all the relevant reasons why it was in the good Lord's best interests that I should actually own this dress. It would look pretty on me. It would make me very happy indeed. But God was not listening to my fanciful desire to own a silver dress. I imagine it wasn't really high on his lists of priorities, but you can't blame a girl for trying, and try I most certainly did, as no territory was left uncharted in pursuing every avenue where I might procure the silvery dress. If I allowed myself to dream, the impossible was almost certainly possible. I had read all about it in books, even the Bible. If you just visualized long and hard enough, and you saw yourself wearing the dress, then it would almost certainly manifest in your reality. My mother straightens the skirt that covers her rotund figure, that over the years has thickened considerably. Wherever she goes, she's noticed, not because she draws crowds by her ravishing beauty, as beautiful my mother is certainly not, but she looks like she stepped out of a Jane Austen novel and morphed into our reality. But I don't mean that in a flattering, complimentary way. My mother looks like a prim, rather austere, draconian, no-nonsense governess, who wears drab brown colours in tweeds and very formal quality fabrics from another era in our history. My mother makes all her own clothes personally, and many of our own dresses. She thinks the vintage, bygone fashions of the 20th century are very unbecoming, immodest and unladylike. Regretfully, she seems to think we should wear her dowdy, frumpish creations when we return home from school every day. They bear a remarkable resemblance to the smocks you see the youngsters wearing in Little House on the Prairie. My father has spoken to my mother on numerous occasions over this sensitive issue concerning the clothes we wear, suggesting as tactfully and diplomatically as he possibly can that perhaps the traditional old-school dresses she makes for us are way too outdated for this modern generation. My mother is clearly locked in some kind of ultra-conservative, retrograde time warp in history, where she feels women dressed far more respectably, in a much more flattering way than they do now, with an elegant grace that is lacking in today's contemporary fashion designs. Thank God we're allowed to wear jeans and sweatshirts on occasions, thanks to my father's persuasive influences on my more than reluctant mother, as he firmly believes it would be heartily foolish for us to wear her vintage dresses when roughing it or riding our bikes down the streets, which she agrees is reasonable. Unbeknown to her, we wear our jeans as often as we possibly can. As young girls, we like to fit in and not draw uncomfortable attention to ourselves. I point to the cutting-edge, superbly stylish silver dress sported by this mannequin that I would really like to wear to Tonia's party next weekend. I tell this to my mother, crossing my fingers behind my back. "Please, Mum, will you buy it for me?" My mother looks appalled, almost wincing with horror, as she unwillingly eyes the avant-garde silver dress in a contemptuous revulsion, her thick fingers fingering the flimsy fabric in mock disgust. "They call this a dress?" she chides churlishly. "This looks like something a pocket-sized doll would wear. What a skimpy-looking thing! It leaves nothing to the imagination. The material is fine. The silver is so bright it's almost blinding." "Mum, don't you see? Me and Evangeline, we stick out like sore thumbs everywhere we go. We wear such old-fashioned clothes. We dress differently to everyone at school. It's so embarrassing." "So this is what this is all about, is it? You want to look as nondescript as all your friends. Do you realise how dreadful they actually look? If you were to go back to the 1800s with those well-dressed debonair men and women, and they were to glimpse into our time, observe how we're dressing now in our generation, I'm quite sure they'd be more than a little affronted by our casual disregard and uninhibited carefree way we dress these days." "But we're not living in the 1800s, Mum. I wish you would realise that, instead of making me and Evangeline look as if we're about to appear on the next stage set of Little House on the Prairie. All we need is a bucket and pail and a bonnet on our heads, and we might as well be starring with Laura Ingalls Wilder." "Now that's a dig a little bit below the belt, dear. Now I really stuck my neck out buying you those modern Levi jeans and sweatshirts just to appease your father, did I not? But that is where I draw the line. I'll never be seen buying an inappropriate skimpy dress for the likes of you. Over my dead body will I do such a thing." My sister and I exchange furtive, sorrowful looks, dappled with resignation. My sister clandestinely raises her brow and mouths the words, "I told you." We know that any rational, sensible reasoning with my mother will almost certainly fall on deaf ears. If we seek my father for support over a flimsy silver dress, it's not going to cut much weight with him either. We know my father will naturally side with my mother on this one. My dad is not old-fashioned like my mother. Even the suits he wears to work are very tailored and smart, but with a modern-day influence to them. Yet a daughter of his wearing a tight-fitting silver dress like this will never wash with him. My father would definitely consider this dress infelicious, injudicious for a young girl to be wearing. I was once told by someone that before we're born, we choose our parents. Are you kidding me? If I chose both my parents before I entered my mother's womb, I certainly was high on drugs or something, or I was viewing them from an alternative reality, as both my parents are not exactly the ideal choice for the in-the-moment 20th century kids who would like to look like they actually belong to this generation rather than morphed into our reality from the 1800s, which is why I so often feel like a fish out of water, struggling to find a watering hole where I actually belong. Don't get me wrong, I do love my parents. I mean, that's what you're supposed to do, isn't it? Love your parents. But me and my sister have a very distant, buttoned-up relationship with our parents, compared to other kids our own age have with their parents. How do I know this? Simple, really. I've seen how other children interact with their parents. They're never afraid to say the first thing that comes out of their mouths, sometimes even letting loose the odd cursory word. God forbid if me or Evangeline ever did that. We would almost certainly be stewing in hot water, rather like a tea bag infusing its soulful flavours in a pot of piping hot tea. I do envy my friends' freedom to be themselves, to wear their hearts on their sleeves without recriminations. In my reserved, repressive, starched, prim and proper household, we mind our P's and Q's all the time like a hawk. We usually never speak until we're spoken to, as my parents always abide by the age-old philosophy that children should be seen and not heard. Yes, my stiff-necked parents are straight-laced, I admit, and they're detached towards us emotionally, but it's not personal. It's just the way they were raised. I guess they're following the same aloof, rather stuffy protocol in raising us. But I do not doubt for a single moment that beneath the formal facade, they love us very much indeed. Me and my sister Evangeline never take it personally, as a teacher in 2nd grade so sagaciously pointed out to me that people can be idiosyncratic. At the time I didn't know what that enigmatic word actually meant, but she explained to me that we are all uniquely different, and that my parents were unusually quirky, eccentric and strict, and she believed that that was what they believed was the right way to raise their own children, so I should not be offended by that, as they knew not how to behave any differently. Our parents' apathetic indifference to us meant for the two of us we didn't have much of an emotional bond with them, as any social interaction was usually detached, highbrow, and very structured. They also believed in punishing us if we misbehaved, which usually meant being told to go to bed without dinner. Me and my sisters hated disappointing our parents. They would never shout or scream at us, as they were far too dignified to lower themselves to recruiting uncouth, offensive language to express their grievous indignation towards us. It would seem their chagrined faces would register so much dejection, almost as if we'd let them down so very much that we might as well have slammed them over the heads with a pitchfork. It was almost like watching two animals in distress physically suffering on our accounts. So it wasn't easy on the eyes. Upsetting our parents became something that we were less inclined to do. Our very ornate family house was located in Portland. It was a quintessential Queen Victoria type home that was very common in the 1800s, with Gothic influences and detailed woodwork, all pristinely painted in white enamel emulsion. Our house had pitched roofs, a wraparound front porch, turrets and roof towers. It was painted in pale pink, with white ornate edging and black roofs. It has a fairy tale castle-like appearance to it that I've always loved. One night when the grandfather clock in our hallway strikes midnight, I creep into my sister's bedroom, poking her in the chest, but she groans, rolls over on her side, and buries her head in the pillow. "Go to bed, sis. I'm trying to sleep." I'm not easily discouraged, so I poke my sister again. "Wake up, Evangeline. I've just had a marvellous idea regarding the silver dress." I'm looking at her with wide eyes, enthusiasm charging through my mind like a NASA space rocket. I have a sense the silver dress is on the very threshold of belonging to me, and I've never wanted anything so badly. It's an all-consuming hold over me that I simply cannot shake off. I can already see my girlfriends' admiring looks as they see me wearing this amazing dress to Tanya's party next weekend. I'm almost certain I'm going to provoke the green-eyed monster among many of them. But then again, that's the whole idea, isn't it? To stand out from the rest of the crowd. And at Tanya's party, every eye will be on the girl, shining as brightly as the Star of David. My sister sits bolt upright in bed. Her face looks exasperated. I suppose I can't blame her, really, when I've woken her up at this ungodly hour. But she has no comprehension what it's like to want something this badly. So badly, in fact, that it tears you up inside. "Can't you forget about the silver dress, Emma? I'm sorry, it's not going to happen. You're going to have to accept that Tanya's party is next weekend. We don't have the money to buy the dress for you. Some things are not meant to be. I know it's hard, sis, and I get that you love the dress, but just let it go, will you?" "But I love the dress, Evangeline. It's the most beautiful dress in the whole world. I've never wanted anything more in my whole life." "Aren't you being dramatic, Emma? Granted, the dress is very nice, I know, but it's not that irresistible. There are nicer things in this world than that silver dress, which you keep putting on a pedestal like some kind of demigod. I'm sorry, but you're ridiculous. This whole thing is ridiculous, and your obsession with the dress is ridiculous." "Aren't you listening? We can steal the dress from the apartment store. It can't be that hard to pinch, surely," I say. My sister looks at me as if she hasn't heard me right. "What did you say?" "I said we can steal the dress from the store. Other people have shoplifted in the past and gotten away with it. Why shouldn't we be successful if we're very clever?" "Are you kidding me, Emma? We can't get away with stealing a dress. You know those shops. They have hidden cameras everywhere, watching your every move. What if we get caught?" Besides, it's morally wrong. You know it is. If Mum and Dad found out we had done such a dreadful thing, it would break their hearts almost certainly. They'd be so ashamed of us. They'd blame themselves for not raising us right. Do you want to put them through that emotional turmoil and self-recrimination? No, it's not fair on them. You know how awful we feel when we upset them. They take everything so very personally. Aside from that, stealing is wrong. You know it is. Evangeline, you don't get it. I don't care if stealing is wrong. Don't care at all. Not right at this moment, anyway. I'd rather not think about the moral implications if you don't mind. I could do without the guilty conviction. Don't you get it? I have to have that dress, and you're going to help me steal it tomorrow. And my decision about this is final, and that is that. Remember, you owe me. I gave you that toffee apple. You promised me that you would make it up to me. I'm holding you to that promise. But sis, how are we going to steal it without being caught? You're going to block me, aren't you? When I surreptitiously slip the silver dress into my bag by lifting another dress above me, as if you're examining the hem, so that the camera doesn't pick up my slipping the dress into the bag. It's going to be straightforward. Emma, I don't know if I can do this. There are people manning those cameras all the time, looking out for suspicious behaviour and guilty-looking body language. I know I'll look guilty as hell. You know I can't even lie with a straight face. They'll take one look at me on the security footage and scream, "Shoplifter, shoplifter, shoplifter." They'll know at once that I'm up to no good. Besides, even our drama teacher, Mrs. Bostick, says my acting skills leave much to be desired. Well, you're just going to have to step up your acting skills then, aren't you? You're going to have to look nonchalant. I'm relying on you to help me, and I don't want you to do anything that's going to look remotely suspicious or questionable. We're wearing jeans and sweatshirts tomorrow, along with sensible flat sneakers. We need to blend in with the crowd. We're going to act like two excited youngsters looking through tons of clothes together. And so it was. Me and my sister take a bus trip downtown, sneaking outside the kitchen door of our Victorian home. When my mother falsely assumes we're seated at our worn-out writing desks in our bedrooms, studiously doing our homework, which is far from the truth. The kitchen door is always left open, so slipping out is seamless. Ostensibly, provided we are quick about it, we can sneak back home stealthily and slip back in the house by way of the back kitchen door, without my mother's feathers becoming remotely ruffled. She won't even know we've been gone. Luckily, the bus drops us off on the side of the main asphalt road, directly opposite the clothing store. We get off the bus and cross the road. We have had about as much experience in shoplifting as a goldfish has swimming on dry land. This is not going to be funny, not at all. I don't mind admitting that I'm nervous as hell, but thoughts of owning that silver dress propel me ever forward with an audacious, intrepid determination that is quite literally grabbing me by the hand and thrusting me across the floor of the shop, one foot after another. It seems like an impertinent courage is making her acquaintance known with me. But have I really got the guts to go through with this outrageous stunt? "You have to do it," a voice whispers in my mind. "You've come this far. No backtracking now." My sister is walking close beside me. I can see by her fidgety, panicky appearance she's looking very ill at ease. At one point she's actually squeezing her eyes tightly shut, as if willing this whole nightmare to go away. I notice her hand that is normally loosely hanging at her side is tightly clenched, so much so that I can actually see the white knuckles showing. It's my fault I've embroiled her in this nefarious scheme, but I've just got to have that silver dress. It's teasing and taunting me. Suffice to say, the idea of rocking up to Tonia's party next weekend without wearing that silver dress is not something I can possibly envisage. I've already seen the looks of wondrous awe as every eye at that party is pinned on me. I can hear the faint whispers among my friends. "Oh my God, I feel so dowdy next to her. She looks like she could be walking down the red carpet in Hollywood. Look at Emma, she's a goddess." All these images are whispered in my mind as I smile inwardly. Even I'm not certain why the silver dress has such a gripping hold on me. But I don't care. I've just got to have it. And it's as simple as that. Some things in life are just meant to be. And this is one of those things. I've never been so nervous in my entire life. I don't think I could make a life out of crime. I just haven't got the stomach for it. Things that involve breaking the law are not that becoming to me. There's an entire colony of butterflies flapping around precariously in my guts that I willfully try to ignore. You hear of those bored housewives with a plethora of money and about as much common sense as a pigeon, grabbing crumbs off the ground, only yards away from the very conspicuous household tomcat. These women, I've been told, get a frenzied buzz from shoplifting. You've got to be kidding me. There's nothing enjoyable about this. My heart is thumping so loudly. If I'm not careful, it might just come bounding out of my chest like a rogue tennis ball that's lost its way. I'm sure I'm acting suspicious. I know these security guards look out for dubious, highly questionable body language. Every part of me is trembling like a jelly. It's like I'm certain there's a red flag on my face saying, "Look at her! She's about to steal from your store." I do feel racked with guilt. I can't lie about that. My conscience is definitely prickling me. "It's wrong. Don't do it. Don't do it." I hear a whispering voice in my gut that only moments before was literally encouraging me. Me and my sisters are both carrying large handbags. We pretend to browse through the different clothes we see together, as if discussing what we like, and then I move towards the silver dresses, surreptitiously. To my horror, they all have alarm devices attached to their hems, which have to be removed by the cashier at the register. My heart sinks. This is just my luck. This is all I need. You'd think I'd have the common sense to say that the universe has conspired against me, firmly deciding that I cannot have this dress. But would I listen to its reverent, sagacious warnings and wise instruction? Absolutely not. My sister whispers in my ear, "Let's go." Her expression is flooded with relief. "We can't get the silver dress you want. It's got a lock on it. If we take it out of the store, the alarm will ring and we will get caught." I have another idea, I tell her, marching confidently with the silver dress in my hand towards the cash register. The woman behind the cashier desk smiles at me warmly. "Beautiful dress," she says, disconnecting the security tag from the dress and folding it up neatly. "Is it cash or card?" "It's card," I say. The woman rings up my dress, while I frantically appear to look for my card in my bag, knowing full well that I don't even own a card. But my charade is convincing. "I don't know where I put my card. I thought it was in my purse." I proceed to empty out the contents of the large bag on the counter. Lipsticks, diaries, cough lozenges, tissues and hairbrushes land on the cash desk in a large mountain of chaos, while I surf through it like a dumpster diver, looking for a lost treasure. "Take your time," says the woman behind the till. "It happens sometimes," she says sympathetically. "It's easy to misplace a credit card." "Oh, I think I left the card at home," I say to her, grabbing the dress from her quickly. "I'll go and hang the silver dress back up for you, where I found it. I'll go home and get my card." "I can keep your dress for you here safely until you return." "No, you better not," I say. "You don't know how long I'm going to be, do you?" The customer queuing behind me is getting exceedingly annoyed. She's been impatiently waiting for a long while to pay for her garments. So the shop assistant behind the cash register shrugs her shoulders in a nonchalant resignation as she begins to deal with her next customer, who is less than agreeable. She's complaining bitterly to the shop assistant for having to wait for so long. I victoriously go and hang the silver dress up, minus its security attachment, in a secret location. Then me and my sister exit the shop for a brief moment, returning again within 10 minutes, champing at the bit to get this whole thing over and done with. We rarely need to get back home before my mother realizes we're not at our desks doing our homework. We're looking through the silver dresses. I grab the one that I had surreptitiously tucked in the far corner. I whisper, "Now!" My sister stands in front of me, holding up another dress, assiduously pretending to examine the price tag. I'm not sure what we look like behind a security camera. I hope we look convincing. I quickly shove the silver dress in my bag. and then we hurriedly move away from the dress rail, walking towards the exit, trying to look very composed. But I'm sure I look anything but. My heart is thumping, but I keep my head fixed on the open door. Then we see him. A security officer looks at us with a solemn expression on his face. "Will you two ladies come with me?" he says gingerly. In that moment, I wish the ground would swallow me whole, as the security officer leads us up some stairs into a private office. My heart is now literally thundering at 1,000 miles an hour through my chest. My fingers are shaking. We've been caught red-handed. Oh my God, I can't believe this is happening. "What's this about, officer?" I ask.
"Would you young ladies kindly open your bags for me?"
The security officer pulls out the silver dress from my bag.
"May I see your receipt for this silver dress?" he asks me.
My face flushes bright red. My words seem to have frozen like ice at the back of my throat. My mind is looking for answers, but I find none. I stand there like a lemon, not knowing exactly what to say, for no words are generously forthcoming. Finally, my sister says, "Emma was going to buy that dress. I don't know how it ended up in her bag. She was intending to put it back on the rail. It must have accidentally slipped into her bag, I think." The security officer is an overweight man, with a stomach so large it hangs over his belt. He smirks at us.
"If I had $1 for every time someone said that to me, I would be a very wealthy man indeed."
The security officer is speaking on a crackling radio to someone in authority.
"Young girl stolen a silver dress from women's evening wear. Yes, they're here. Yes."
Oh my God, he's calling the police. Are we going to have a police record? Please God, no. Oh my word, what have I done?
"Please sit down," says the security officer. "Over there," he says, gesturing to the 2 chairs on the opposite side of the desk. "Mr. Carter-Jones will be with you in a moment."
My sister and I say nothing to each other. We sit on uncomfortable hard-backed metal chairs next to each other, staring vacantly at the pedestrian-looking beige walls of this nondescript office, where there is an old calendar of dogs on the wall that looks as if it's 3 years out of date, along with an ominous sign in blazing red print that screams loudly, "Thieves will be prosecuted." In the far corner of the room is a metal filing cabinet, and the desk we're sitting at is wooden with pitted marks in it. I see someone has carved the words in the desk. I didn't mean it. I imagine some youngster like me carved those words in the wood, after having stolen something that did not belong to them. It seems oddly comforting that my experience has been shared with others. A tall man of about 6'5", very slender with a neat moustache and a receding hairline, takes a seat opposite us on a blue and white upholstered chair. He's quite debonair, really, wearing a skinny purple tie that matches his purple-framed glasses. He's staring at us through his brown, piercing eyes.
"What's your name?"
he asks me, his eyes fixing on me sternly, his voice sharp and crisp. I tremble. "Emma, sir."
"Emma, do you realise how serious it is to be caught shoplifting?"
I nod. "I'm sorry, sir. I won't do it again, I promise you. I've never stolen a thing in my life. You can ask my sister. I just wanted that silver dress, and I couldn't afford it. I'm really sorry, sir." "Sir, it's true," says Evangeline. "We know stealing is wrong, sir. We do." The tears pour down her cheeks. "My sister wanted that dress, sir. We couldn't afford to buy it. Please don't call the police. Please, I beg you, don't call them. My mother will be so upset." The man's face softens.
"I'll let you girls off this time," he says. "But I do need to speak to your parents about this. What is your mother's surname and her phone number?"
"Oh, please, sir. Please don't speak to my mother. She'll be so disappointed in us. She'll be so upset."
"That's not my problem, young lady. What is your mother's telephone number?"
I give it to him with a heavy reluctance as the officer taps our number in his cell phone, putting it on speakerphone so we can hear my mother's reaction when he delivers the cruel blow to her and informs her that she's raised 2 criminal scoundrels for daughters. The officer does not appreciate that my mother is not going to take the news at all well. This could actually destroy her.
My mother's cell phone rings, and me and my sister hold our breaths as if we're diving under the water. My mother answers the phone. Hello? Hello? Is this Mrs. Falconer speaking? That's right. Who's this? Comes my mother's voice. This is Officer Carter Jones speaking, madam. I have your 2 daughters here with me, Emma and Evangeline. They've both been caught shoplifting in our store. Your daughter Emma has stolen a silver dress from evening wear. You must be mistaken, comes my mother's voice, weak with horror. My 2 children are in their bedrooms, doing their homework. Sorry, madam. They're here with me. A silver dress, you say, says my mother. Is it sleeveless? Is it short? That's right, madam. There's a stiff, awkward silence at the end of the telephone. I know my mother is remembering the silver dress I asked her to buy me. You're not going to prosecute, are you, sir? Comes my mother's strained voice. I'll have stiff words with them, Mr. Carter Jones, I assure you. They'll never do this again. I'll make absolutely sure of it. On this occasion, madam, we will not refer this case to the police. But the next time they do this, they will be immediately arrested. We're letting them off with a warning. Thank you so much, Mr. Carter Jones, comes my mother's relieved voice. I can't tell you how much I appreciate your leniency, Mr. Carter Jones. I assure you, officer, I've brought my children up to respect other people's belongings. Me and my husband are very strict parents. We teach our children right from wrong. I don't know what possessed them to do this outrageous thing. It is most unlike them. I know Emma was pressing me to buy that silver dress for her, but I point-blank refused. And this must be their way of getting back at me. Could you send my children home at once, sir? Tell them to get the bus back now. I'll deal with them as soon as they get back. Mr. Carter Jones, what is your favourite tipple, sir? I enjoy Scottish whisky, madam. In fact, I enjoy it very much. I'll send you a very expensive bottle, Mr. Carter Jones, my way of thanking you for your discretion. That will be very much appreciated, madam. The officer looks exceedingly pleased. I think he rather likes the idea of receiving an expensive bottle of Scottish whisky for his trouble. You 2 children may leave now, he says, waving his arms at us, as if he's had about as much of us as he can possibly take. You heard your mother. She wants you back home. You need to get that bus now. I should be relieved that me and my sister are not being retained by the police, but picturing my crestfallen, disenchanted parents, the injurious hurt we've caused them when they realise what we've done, quite literally jerks at my heartstrings. The idea of returning home is about as attractive as sleeping with a scorpion right now. Delaying the inevitable seems a lot more preferable, as embracing procrastination as our steadfast ally seems not half such a bad idea. As me and my sister scramble on the bus, I tell her we can't go home to face my mother's wrath and her chagrin disappointment. I can't face it, I explain to her. I need this like a hole in my head. Well, where are we going to go, Emma, then? We're going to get off this bus and take number 33 to the countryside, and we're going to get off near the woodgrove. My sister nods. I explain my new ingenious plan to her. I assured her that our parents would be so worried about us not returning home that their anger about stealing the silver dress would subside and wilt away like a dying flower in the meadow, to be remembered no more. If they think we've gone missing, they'll be so worried about us that the fact we've disappeared will override their concerns about what we've actually done. Then we'll be in a lot less trouble. You know what they did the last time they were mad with us? We went to bed without dinner, and they confiscated our cell phones for a whole month. That was the longest month of our lives. Do you want that to happen again? My sister shakes her head. I like that about Evangeline. I'm quick to talk her around anything, as my sister is a Libra and is so indecisive about everything, so she's always relied on me to make all the decisions for the both of us, even when she's had her misgivings and doubts, like she does now, as I can see her forehead is furrowed. Don't you see, Evangeline? If they think we've gone missing, they'll never ever take our cell phones away from us. They'll realise we need our cell phones, if they want to contact us. Right now, our cell phones are at home being charged. They can't even contact us. They won't want us to be without them, will they? I'll say to them when I see them,
If I'd had my cell phone, Dad, then I would have been able to phone you, and you would have been able to pick us up. You want us to sleep the night in the woods. Isn't that going to be scary? A bunch of trees? Get a grip, Evangeline. What's scary about a bunch of trees? They'll be perfect. A perfect place for us to hide, and then we'll go home in the morning. But what will we say to Mum and Dad about where we've been? We'll say we were so upset about the silver dress that we got on the wrong bus and spent the night in the woods and had no way of contacting them. After the first bus dropped us off, we bought ourselves some snacks and drinks at the shop with some of our pocket money. We caught the second bus that dropped us on this asphalt road outside Portland in a heavily forested area. Me and my sister climbed out of the bus and thanked the driver. It was when we were walking on the edge of the asphalt road towards the woodgrove that I was overcome with an avalanche of doubts. In my mind, the mere idea of sleeping in a woodgrove at night seemed something effortlessly straightforward to accomplish. It would be just sleeping between some trees, would it not? But in the cold light of day, facing the stark reality of what seemed like a stupendous idea, seemed more than a little intimidating. But we had come this far. I was hardly about to change my plans now. I had resolutely made up my mind that this was what we were going to do, and I was not about to waver or vacillate in my decisions. After all, I was the wiser of the two sisters, so I called the shots. I couldn't allow Evangeline to see me lose my nerve. Me and my sister trudged through the verdant forest, where a gentle breeze blew against our faces. The tall, towering Douglas firs, western cedars, big-leaf maples and ponderosa pine trees were so much bigger than I'd ever envisaged. Their long vertical trunks seemed to pencil up into the sky like straight towers, bedecked with viridescent finery, while their little boughs jiggled in the wind like extended tentacles of an octopus, as if the trees were ushering us into the woodgrove with hundreds of welcoming hands. We ambled through the woods, pressing our rubber sneakers down on the black earthen floor, richly carpeted in old leaves and pine needles. The smell of pine, a sweet buttery smell with peppery and minty notes, wafted in the air, mingled with fresh earthy smells. We trudged awkwardly ever forwards, stomping over mossy logs, carefully weaving our way around open feathery ferns, tufts of grass and forest foliage of varying varieties, of that which I am not well acquainted with. After all, I'm a city girl that has no real appreciation or proficient understanding of the countryside. My obvious ignorance and apparent lack of sentient knowledge already hitting me over the head like an ice-cold glass of water. The ground becomes more spongy under our feet. I was looking for the perfect spot for us to sleep for the night. Then I find it in an old shed that has been built a long time ago. It was possibly used in the past for storing wood. I'm not sure. The ground is dirty, but breaking off a piece of ponderosa pine, me and my sister sweep the dust away from the floor, carefully eliminating spiders and crawling insects that have made this dilapidated building home. They scurry away quickly. We then sit down on the hard warped floor. Are we really going to sleep on this floor tonight? It's so hard. I snap at my sister belligerently. Do we have a choice in the matter? Now stop complaining, Evangeline. Evangeline knows that when I snap at her, it's her cue to shut up, and she does so quickly. We both sit down together in this tight little narrow shelter, our legs rubbing against each other, as we momentarily relax our torsos against the walls that are made up of cracking rotten wood that is being ravaged by termites. We can hear the bird song through the valley, the chirrups, the warbles, the tweets. The wind blows the occasional leaf up in the air, which dances up in the breeze like a lonely butterfly, while the light of the forest begins to dim, taking on a yellow-orangey glaze, until finally the light seeps away, like the water draining away from a sink. The bird's song fades and dissipates, while a greyness descends over the forest, becoming greyer and greyer and greyer by the second. Shadows consume the ground, and then in a single long breath, all our eyes can see is black. It is so pitch black that I had no idea which way was east or which was west, as it suddenly felt as if the whole forest had closed in on us inauspiciously and was sucking away my very breath. I was screaming inside my mind with terror. I felt trapped in this treacherously tenebrous, unsmiling, hostile place that was so intimidatingly spooky, with a formidable sense of belligerent foreboding. but on the outside my expression remains completely cool-headed, self-possessed and unruffled, for the benefit of my sister, who is unable to see my expression. "I'm scared," she whispers to me. "I'm really scared, Emma. I'm not sure it's a good idea us staying here all night. I can't even see my hand before my face." "Don't be silly. Don't be such a little baby. The forest is dark. In the morning it'll be light, and then we'll be out of here." My sister shudders. She opens her bags, feeling around for a bottle of chocolate milk she brought. She hands me one. The sweet cold chocolate soothes my troubled heart, as it soothingly slips down my throat, offering me a brief measure of comfort. I'm secretly cursing myself. What was I thinking, getting us to sleep in a forest all night? I'd never known it would be like this. The trees that surround us in this darkness are blacker than the night, with dense vertical silhouettes like imposing, menacing giants. As they move in the wind, it's like they're whispering to each other about us, as if their intentions towards us are exceedingly nefarious. It's almost as if the forest itself is conspiring against us. I can sense insects crawling around us in the dark, and small animals rising out of the dead layers of leaves, burrowing towards us. Despite the reassuring sounds of crickets and frogs, for me there was so much noise in this silence, especially the noise of my own dreadful fear, as my thoughts thunder with anxiety. It is when I see several pairs of yellow eyes moving towards us that my percolating anxiety screams out like a whistling kettle that reaches a boiling point. I hear a blood-curdling loud scream and wonder where it's coming from, until I realise it's my own voice, and my sister joins me in this distressing wailing sound. It's so discomposing that it travels through the woods like an air raid siren. If we don't want anyone to know where we are, we've certainly done a great job in alerting every living soul in this forest to our presence. What were we thinking? The animals with the bright yellow eyes begin to scurry away. Our screams have scared them off for the time being, but they continue to watch us from a distance, their curiosity in us aroused. "What are they?" whispers my sister anxiously. "Those creatures with the yellow eyes, what are they? And why are they watching us?" "Coyotes, I think," I tell her. Suddenly we hear these heavy feet pounding the forest floor. Stomp, stomp, stomp. Could things get any worse than this? On hearing that noise, the yellow eyes that had been watching us, whatever is coming towards us, has even scared off the coyotes. Oh my God, what could it be? We hear the ominous sound again. My heart is now doing gymnastic flip-flops in my chest. It's thumping so loudly that it drowns out the noise of the creature coming towards us. We cannot see anything, only this indistinct, towering, thick silhouette, shaped like a giant, devoid of any definition, that gives off a glittering yellow eyeshine. A voice is speaking to us. It sounds human. It sounds female. I don't even understand the language. Umanwik, Amanuluko, Madasawin. "Hello, madam. I don't understand what you're saying. We're scared, madam. Could you help us get out of this forest? It's so dark in here. We can't see a thing. There's some coyotes over there. I think they're interested in us." The next thing I know, a hand grabs my hand, and a hand grabs my sister's hand on the other side. I know it sounds crazy, but I feel safe. I'm not sure whose hands we're holding, but they've got to be human, haven't they? The person speaks in a foreign language, so me and my sister with our bags over our shoulders and our hands held firmly by a tall human being that we can't actually see, allow ourselves to be guided through the forest. It's incredible how this stranger knows exactly where to go, so we don't trip over a single thing. No logs covered with moss, no ferns or forest foliage. We cannot see how this foreign stranger can see so precisely in the dark. That is what we find so extraordinary. We find ourselves being guided down an open trail that leads to the pavement that fringes the asphalt road. The soft ethereal moonlight lights up the dark shadows. I look up to find that the hand I'm holding belongs to an 8-foot enormous creature, which I realise is a Bigfoot. Her deep-set eyes look down at me. They're golden in colour and filled with an awe-consuming love. Emeno omana ananono bogo. You're safe now. I hear her words interpreted in my own head. Me and my sister watch her in awe as she breaks down a ponderosa pine tree branch, placing it in the middle of the road. I realise she's doing this so that the next car that comes this way will have to stop to remove the branch out of the way, so that we will easily get help. The protective female Bigfoot with her fabulous matriarch energy stands with us loyally and waits. We hear the distinctive sound of a car engine purring down the road. A man sighs. He groans as he opens his car door, marching towards the branch, pushing it away, and marching back to his car. The creature indicates for us to remain hidden behind the trees with her. Omokopa anakalano dobogo. Not good man, she whispers in our heads. Yumokot abagalano. You must wait. 2 more people drive up to the branch and climb out of their cars. But the Bigfoot tells us again in our heads, she's not sure. The energy is wavering. I don't know what that's supposed to mean. The next person that stops his truck and climbs out of the door to push the branch away, the critter pushes us forward. She says, Omoko bagalasha, okoshanafa. Good man, I hear in my head. To cut a long story short, the Bigfoot was absolutely right about the man she chose for us. It turned out he was a much-beloved pastor of a local church who drove us directly home. Even though I got it so badly wrong about the both of us staying in the woods overnight, I'm glad to have met the real live Bigfoot. It turned out that stealing the silvery dress seemed to pale into insignificance when my parents thought we were both missing. They were so heartily grateful that we'd been found and returned home safely. So much so that the silvery dress we'd stolen barely received a single mention. We were not even reprimanded for our bad, reprehensible behaviour. My father told me, of course, never to steal again, and that if I wanted something so desperately badly, like I'd wanted that silver dress, I was to ask for it first. Suffice to say, my father brought me that silver dress to wear to Tonya's birthday party, as he knew it had meant so much for me. But after everything we'd been through, it somehow had lost its shine. I've never been able to forget the kind Bigfoot whom rescued us and led us by the hand safely through the woodgrove. She was such a kind, protective, nurturing soul. I will never be able to forget her as long as I live. So there you are. That's my story. Wow, what an incredible story. Until next time, goodbye and good night.